Hello everyone, my name is Allie. Today I'm going to tell you my epilepsy story. So I'm going to tell you all about my journey from getting epilepsy to my first seizure, to getting a diagnosis, to learning to live with epilepsy and my journey up until now. So I hope you guys enjoy and find it helpful or informative. And if this in any way can help someone that was in a position like me when I was trying to figure out what was wrong with my brain, then it'll be absolutely so worth it. The reason for me making this is because at the time that I was trying to get a diagnosis, there were no videos available or any kind of stories where people had epilepsy like mine. So I want to share my experience to hopefully help you guys push to get a diagnosis and maybe learn from my misfortune, I suppose. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video and please share it with as many people as you want. I would love to hear your epilepsy stories if you have one like mine, or if you just want a chat about it, if you want to learn some more information. So I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, maybe grab a cup of tea or something because it's going to be a long one. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about epilepsy. Just a brief overview for you guys that maybe don't know very much. So epilepsy is a neurological condition. It is incurable. It is often untreatable. Only 52% of people that have epilepsy are seizure free. I'm one of those 52. And I have actually been seizure free for 3 years. So 3 years today, the 12th of May 2020. Epilepsy affects more people than cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, MS and cystic fibrosis combined. That's a lot of people. And 9 out of 10 people wouldn't know how to give first aid to someone with epilepsy, someone like me. People still aren't educated, and that's why I'm making this video. There are 60 different types of seizures, and most people tend to associate epilepsy with just one, which is a generalised seizure. I don't have those. I suffer from focal seizures. Some people don't like to use the word suffer, but I suffer, so I use that word. Focal seizures affect only a small part of the brain, but they have a massive impact. My seizures don't look like anything sometimes. Sometimes my eyes can flicker, which is pretty scary. Sometimes I can look like this. Sometimes I can be having a conversation with you and I've learned how to control it. They don't look like anything, and I think that's the thing that people get confused about. Sometimes epilepsy can be just as invisible as any other illness. So, for the 87 people that will be diagnosed with epilepsy today, here is my story. And I hope one day you guys can share yours. I got epilepsy when I was 17, and mine was caused by a head trauma. It doesn't actually have to be caused by anything. Sometimes it can just appear, but mine was caused by head trauma. And they believe it was caused by a head trauma that happened when I was on holiday doing the cha-cha slide. So it got to the bit that went, how low can you go? And I went low, and I went all the way to the ground, and I put my head back onto the marble and I knocked myself out. So dancing's dangerous. It just seems like such a fitting way for me to get something like that. I'm just so daft. But yeah, that's how I got it, and it's funny now. Probably wasn't that funny at the time, but I can laugh about it years later, I suppose. So my first seizure happened about 3 months after the initial head trauma, and I was lying in bed watching the TV, and I was feeling a little bit under the weather. I had a cold, something like that, and I hadn't eaten very much that day because I was being lazy and lying in my bed. And I started to feel a little bit sick. I got a ringing in my ear, and then all of a sudden this whoosh that kind of threw me sideways. And at that point as well, my eyes started flickering like an old VHS. If any of you guys don't know what a VHS is, that makes me feel very old. But it basically started bouncing up and down. So my vision was jumping. Like I couldn't focus on a single point, and it was just kind of like flickering. So after I was absolutely exhausted, and I thought that must be what it's like when you faint and you're lying down. So I put it down to being a little bit unwell and not eating enough, and I never really thought about it again. Until about a year later, when I went on a girls' holiday with girls from my work and went to Ibiza, and it was roasting, and I wasn't that drunk, but it was a very stressful holiday and it was very, very hot. So I was in a lift on the way down to go to dinner, and all of a sudden the lift just came away from underneath me. It just collapsed, and it was as if it was hurtling towards the ground, and like it was just going down the lift shaft, and I screamed at the top of my voice because I was certain I was going to die. I was like, this is it, we're going to die, this is like the Tower of Terror in real life, like this is it. And I screamed, and my friend, my drunk friend, screamed as well, which obviously makes sense now because she had no idea why I was bloody screaming. But what felt like forever of falling down the lift shaft, I then got to the open doors and fell flat onto the marble floor. It's always a marble floor, but I fell flat onto a marble floor and burst my nose. And I kind of wasn't really unconscious, but I was definitely dazed. And I kind of came to with people all around me, and people saying, she's diabetic, low blood sugar, blah, 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 blood. And I just couldn't really make out any words other than just someone coming over to me and saying, here, drink this. And it was like a full sugar Fanta. And I started to feel a little bit better, and I thought, wow, I think it is my blood sugar. So I was really careful for kind of the rest of the holiday from hell. And I went to the doctor when I came back, just to check all my levels were okay. And the doctor said that I had a low iron count when they took a blood test. So he prescribed me with iron tablets, and this happened again another few times, but I put it down to maybe not eating enough again, or low blood sugar, or just not taking my tablets on time, or missing a tablet or whatever. And I never really considered it to be anything more serious than that until again a little bit later on. And it got to the stage that I had become very, very, very unwell, and I thought I was on death's door. Essentially, I was so unwell I couldn't get out of my bed, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't go to work, I had to drop out of uni because I couldn't look after myself. And it was awful. It was honestly absolutely horrendous, and I don't really remember too much of that time. Just I think I've blocked it out somewhere. But my friends and family were very, very, very concerned about me, and as I was for myself. I didn't know what was wrong with me, and looking up symptoms, which we shouldn't do, I thought I had MS. I thought I might have had lupus. I thought I might have just had cancer. And I was convinced I was literally passing away. And this was over the space of about 4 weeks. And I'd been to the doctor, and they'd done tests and they'd done exams, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me other than I needed to start taking my iron tablets and eat a bit more. And after about 6 weeks of me being too unwell to work, I had to go back to work. So I went back to work, and I remember sitting at the back like this. I couldn't keep my eyes open, and I was like shaking. I had fever and chills, and this had been going on for 6 weeks. And my boss said, please go home. You need to rest. You're not well enough to be in here. And I did. And I never went back to work again for another 4 weeks. I ended up in hospital. I was discharged from hospital. I was back in hospital. I was discharged from hospital. And it was just test after test after test after test. And they still couldn't find anything wrong with me. And I was so sick. My arms were covered in bruises from them trying to take blood from me. And they had to... I'm so sick. They had to take it from my wrist, which, if any of you have ever had blood taken from your wrist, it is the worst pain. It is so sore and it's so traumatic, and I'm so scared of getting my blood taken that this was just... I actually wished I was dead at that point. I wished I was dead because I was so sick. And I thought, if this is my life, I don't want it. I would just rather die. And I'm just so lucky that I had friends and family and a boyfriend that cared about me enough to kind of stick by me and see me get better eventually. But after about 2 months of tests, and not getting any better really, I got results from the doctor, and he said I had glandular fever. So that was great news to me. I was like, yes, I'm going to get better. You mean I'm just going to get better on my own? And honestly, my hospital experience was horrific. Like, my veins just kept collapsing. I was in so much pain. And I can't get blood taken from that arm now because it just collapses. It's horrible. They had to go between my toes for blood. They had to try and take it from my ankle, my wrist. I thought they were just going to have to cut me at one point because they couldn't get any more. So knowing that this is all done was the best time ever. And I also had to get a really awkward rectal exam as well. So eventually I got the diagnosis of glandular fever, and I was like, woohoo, I'm going to get better. And I was really skinny for my holiday that year as well. I'd lost loads of weight, like at least about 3 stone. And I was skinny. I was loving my life. I was away in Ibiza on my bikini pictures. The first year and the last year I ever took a bikini picture. But the ear ringing and the flicky eyes and the dizziness didn't stop. It didn't stop when I got better from the glandular fever. So I went back to the doctor, and at the point that I had glandular fever, I was going to the doctor at least twice a week. So this was a massive improvement. So I went to the doctor, and the other doctor had changed, so I now had a female doctor. And I said, I thought I had vertigo or labyrinthitis or something like that. So I asked to be sent to ENT, and I was. And they said, yes, you have vertigo. And I thought, yes, I've cracked it. I've got it. And the tests they do in ENT, guys, if any of you are being tested for epilepsy or anything ENT related, and they are doing these tests, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They're ridiculous. Like, I had to stand on this surfboard thing that moves and it tests your balance. And then there's like a chamber thing you stand in, and it's got like TV screens, like whooshing past. It's the weirdest tests ever. And then they get you to lie down, and then the guy pulls you up really fast. The tests are ridiculous. But yeah, so I had vertigo, so I was like, cool. But that didn't explain why sometimes I just went completely blank. But I was like, nah, never mind, vertigo. So this never stopped. I got treated for vertigo. It never stopped. It just kept getting worse, and it got more frequent, and I was having these more often, and then it was more often and more often. And as it came back into the summer, it got more frequent because of the temperature again. So me trying to live my teenage life, going to concerts, going on holiday, it just kept making it worse because I was just getting more and more unwell. And I went back to the doctor and I said, I'm not getting any better. And she gave me another medicine for like my sickness. I wasn't feeling sick. I was feeling drained and exhausted with it and just helpless. So they gave me more medicine, and I had kind of given up by this point. I just accepted that it was my life. I'd started in a new uni course, and I had now started calling it seizures. I'd started calling the episodes, the vertigo, I started calling them seizures because I kind of recognised that's what they were at this point. That was about 1.5 years down the line, so I've been going on a little while. And they were getting worse while I was at uni. They were getting worse with the stress, the coursework. They were getting worse with me constantly going out as being a student. They were getting worse because I was focusing on my dissertation and I was working and I was using screens a lot. So yeah, it was just a really vicious cycle. I worked in a phone shop. Like, it's so many screens, you know, and people just, they stopped believing that there was anything wrong with me unless they'd seen it. When they see it, you know. But it really just got to the stage that it was only really my mum and my boyfriend that believed that I actually had anything wrong with me, because they were the ones that seen my eyes move and they actually seen the seizures. And that was the lowest point of it all. Lower than me having glandular fever, lower than me lying in the hospital bed having to hold my wrist from having the blood taken and then being sent home. It was the lowest point. And I genuinely felt like that I just had to live this horrible existence of having these seizures, and no one cared and no one believed me. And even like my family didn't believe me anymore, some of my family, and my friends and my mum's friends all thought I was at it as well. And it was just horrendous. It was horrendous. So at this point, preparing for my dissertation, I had the worst seizure I've ever had, and it was 10 minutes long. Normally my seizures are about 1 minute, so a 10-minute seizure is like, it's really damaging. And I don't remember any of it. I don't remember any of that day. And basically, from my friends' accounts of what happened, I was in the middle of singing a song. I sat down and I just started telling them about what might happen if this was to happen when I was performing live, and that my mum would know what to do, and that I just basically talked absolute rubbish for like about 10 minutes, and until my friend, he said, "Allie, are you having a seizure?" And I apparently just said yes and just continued on with the story, and I don't remember it. So at that point things had gotten pretty bad and they were really out of control. So just a few days later after that, I was in work in the phone shop, and 2 ladies came in and one of them needed an upgrade for their phone. So I done the whole usual sit down, what do you have, your phone, etc. just now. And she had a medical ID bracelet on, and just a topic of conversation, I said, "Oh, do you mind if I ask what that's for?" And she said, "Oh, I have epilepsy." I said, "Oh, cool, okay. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? I think I might have epilepsy." And I basically described what had happened to me, and she described what her seizures were like, and they just matched up. And it honestly felt as if I had just went, I'm not crazy. This is something that happens to people. And when she told me that, I was just like, yes, finally someone believes me. And it was a stranger. Like, it's just so exasperating that that's the kind of stage in my life that I'd got to, that I was so depressed and just helpless, that I was so excited to think that I might have had a life-changing condition and that a stranger believed that I had it. Basically, after this encounter in the shop with the lady that also had epilepsy, this lit a fire under my arse, and I was determined to get a diagnosis. I was hungry for one, and I was so livid that I hadn't pushed it as far as what I could have done before. So I went back to the doctor, and all of this time I'm actually still been in contact with the girl I'd met in the shop, and I kind of kept her updated as well. And I said to the doctor, I want to be referred to neurology. This is what I think's wrong with me. I'm suffering from this, this and this, and I've spoken to other people that have this and it sounds like epilepsy. And she said, no, I don't think it is epilepsy. I think you need to go to a counsellor. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was so upset. It felt as if I'd like built it up and built it up and built it up, and I thought, yes, she's going to be like, yeah, do you know what, Allie, you're right. I think you are actually Dr. Allie and you are correct in your diagnosis of epilepsy. I don't know what I thought was going to happen. But yeah, she just shot me down in flames and said no. And she didn't think it was a good idea. I was hysterical, to say the least. I just pleaded with her to get me an appointment with a neurologist, and reluctantly she did. So I went into the neurology department in the hospital, and I went with my boyfriend, and she called me in, and the appointment lasted about 3 minutes or something. And my boyfriend waited outside, and I said, I think I have epilepsy, and told her what I had been experiencing. So the kind of blurred vision, the jumpiness, my eyes flickering, hearing the whooshing sound and getting head spins and going blank. And she said, yeah, I think you're right. And I was like, what? And it felt as if I'd won the lottery. It felt as if I'd won the lottery. I felt like the luckiest girl in the whole world that I had epilepsy. Like, it just shows what a horrible time it was, that I was so relieved to have something wrong with me, because people had just thought I was lying. And I was thrilled. I was actually thrilled to have epilepsy and to know that there might be a treatment. Like this, the girl that I'd met in the shop, she'd been seizure free for 10 years, so maybe that could happen to me. And she put me on medicine right away, and it was Keppra, and it worked. I have not had a seizure since. I've not had a seizure since that day. It was the 12th of May 2017 and today's the 12th of May 2020, so it worked. Woohoo. But that medicine was not good. It was not good for me at all. At first it made me lose loads of weight, and I was like, yes, I'm going to be skinny, I'm going to be seizure free, this is going to be the best time in my life. And yeah, I lost a little bit of weight. I lost maybe like half a stone or something, not very much. I started to become really erratic. I had really bad mood swings, kind of like just PMS on steroids times 1,000. Like, it was awful. And eventually this escalated so much that I couldn't tell that I was having a mood swing, and I just felt overwhelmingly angry at nothing. Like, I would shout at people in the street for bumping into me. I absolutely gave dog's abuse to a guy that sneezed on the bus once. He just sneezed, and I was like, how do you think you are? You're making all this noise. And I was horrible to everyone I loved. I was unbearable, I can imagine. It was really difficult for them to love me. And I just didn't want to come off the medicine because I didn't want to go back to having seizures. And it was getting worse. I was having meltdowns in restaurants. It must have been so embarrassing to be around me at that point. It was horrible. And yeah, I just went on a downward spiral of being so angry at myself and the world and people, and just furious. And this has been nicknamed the Keppra rage, and apparently it's a really common side effect. So mine just got so bad that it started to affect other things. It started to affect my work, and I had to actually take time off my work because I was shouting at customers for asking questions that was my job to answer. I was just horrible. I had such a temper, and I was just in such a low mood all the time. It was horrible. Eventually this heightened to a point that I started to want to harm myself. And I don't mean like I wanted to self-harm, like to injure myself. I wanted to really do damage to myself. I wanted to jump off of balconies when I was walking along them. I wanted to step in front of traffic, and I did at points. And eventually it got so bad that one day I was sitting in the library, and this is so surreal to me that this even happened. It honestly, when I describe it, it is like an out of body experience, and all of these angry episodes, they were like, it wasn't me. It was like I was watching myself. And I was sitting in the library. We were making some kind of project. I'd started my master's degree at this point, and I was doing this with a pair of scissors to my finger. And at the time, I just remember thinking, I wonder how long it will take until I get to the bone of my finger. And it's really upsetting to talk about because I just can't imagine, like, I've got a scar on my finger and everything from it. And the girl across from me, she said, Allie, what are you doing? And by this point, I hadn't even really broken the skin. It was just like a little kind of cut. But she said, Allie, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm just cutting my finger off. And she went, what? I said, yeah, I'm just cutting my finger off. How long do you think it'll take until I can cut through? And she was like, why would you do that? I can't even imagine what she must have been thinking. She must have been thinking, this crackpot I'm teamed up with. But I said, is that not something I would do? And she went, that's not something anyone would do. And at that point I thought, oh, something is really, really wrong here. So I phoned the nurse literally right then. Like I basically went straight from the library and I phoned the nurse and I said, look, I have been having these really bad episodes of anger and like really erratic behaviour, and it's come to the stage that I'm trying to harm myself and I don't really know what to do. I think it's the medication. And she said, yes, I think so too. I think you're on too high a dosage of medication and I want to take you off it right away. So I told her about the finger incident and me trying to step in front of traffic and all of that. And she seemed very, very, very concerned, but didn't really say why. She didn't really say what the cause of it would be. She was very vague. So I looked it up again. And on all these forums, it started to tell you a little bit about Keppra poisoning. So Keppra poisoning is essentially when you're on too high a dosage of the medication and it starts to basically shut down your organs, which sounds really, really scary, and it was, but what's kind of the scariest thing is that it could have been prevented. And I now have lasting brain damage from that medicine and from the uncontrolled seizures. But I done a little bit more research, and essentially what anticonvulsant medications do, which is what treats most epilepsy cases, is epilepsy is caused by a lot of, say, electricity in your brain. And what the medicine does is it kind of like goes with the sparks, like it kind of like with them. So what this medicine was doing, because I was taking too much of it, it was basically dulling out every spark on my brain, and my brain couldn't cope with it. It couldn't figure out right from wrong, and it couldn't figure out what my mood was meant to be and what my reaction should have been, and it just started rotting away. And I was very lucky that I did kind of catch it before I'd done serious damage to myself or someone else, which can happen. So I was quickly put on another medication, which was lamotrigine, and I was allergic to lamotrigine, so I was quickly taken back off of lamotrigine and put on to Vimpat, which is glucosamide, and that's what I'm still on just now. So glucosamide is a drug that they tend to use as a combination, and I'm just on that on its own. I'm on a very, very low dosage, which is actually not even considered a therapeutic dose, but I'll get to that in a second. So they put me onto Vimpat and I quickly started to gain weight. I noticed my face was getting a little bit puffy, and my weight has always been a bit of a trigger for me, so I was quite concerned about it at the time. But I thought, you know, I'll give it a bash. Maybe I'm just getting a bit fat. And I ended up putting on 4 stone, just under 4 stone, in about 6 or 7 weeks. Yep, it was a lot. I ballooned in weight while taking this medicine, and the faster the weight went on related to how much of the medicine I was taking. So I went to the specialist again and I told her this, and she said, medicine can't make you put on weight. And I thought, well, the point of the medicine is it slows down your metabolism, so surely that has some kind of inkling to do with why I've put on 4 stone in less than 2 months. And she said, well, maybe you just need to watch what you're eating. And I was livid. I was so angry. And I went onto the forums and the groups that I was in, and I said, has anyone else had this side effect? And it's like the most common side effect is to gain loads of weight. So I started to reduce my own medicine, which I wouldn't recommend doing, but it worked for me. And I'm now on 5 milligrams in the morning and at night time. And yeah, I've been seizure free ever since. So it works. I'm hoping to maybe come off it soon because my weight is still a struggle with it. But yeah, I suppose that's perks of having epilepsy. I have temporal lobe epilepsy. I've had it for 6 years, and 3 of those years have been seizure free. Woo. I have focal seizures, which actually equate to 60% of all seizures that people with epilepsy have. And I suffer from complex and simple partial seizures, which affects a small part of my brain, but as I said, massive impact on my body. So, as well as that, I also have brain damage. As you said, we don't know if this is caused by the overdosing medication or just the uncontrolled seizures. But either way, what's done is done. I do feel a little bit like I'm playing a victim when I say things like that, because people have it so much worse off than me. But also, this could have been prevented. It could have been prevented if I had maybe pushed a little bit harder for a diagnosis, or maybe if I'd had a different doctor. But those are what ifs. So we can't live our lives with those. As much as I am 3 years seizure free, I'm in no way out of the woods. It's going to be hard for me to try and have a baby, and maybe even dangerous. And there's also SUDEP as well, which is sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. And that is something that I'm reminded of every time I go for a checkup. It's something that kills 500 people in the UK alone every single year. And it's something that is not preventable. It just happens. Sometimes people just die from epilepsy. It kills more people than breast cancer, melanoma, drunk driving incidents, and overdoses. Actually, 1,000 people die from epilepsy every single year, and 400 of them can be prevented if people knew how to do first aid, or if the people got correct treatment, which is why I'm making this video. So I hope, if anything, you've learned a little bit about epilepsy, about me, about my story, and hopefully you guys maybe won't have the same kind of hard journey as what I did with trying to get a diagnosis, if that's the path you're on. So I just want to finish off by saying that people with epilepsy are more prone to mental health issues, and also on average we live about 8 years shorter than anyone else. So I just want to say to anyone that has epilepsy that I try and live my life the best I can, because I know I might not have as much time. Maybe I will, but maybe I won't. And I think if there was any kind of positive, that's what I would take from it, is that time is the enemy and you have to enjoy what you have. I could spend this whole video going on about how angry I am at my doctor and all of that, but it's not going to make me not be epileptic, so I might as well just embrace it. And it's me. And me tripping over my words and having to do 400 takes is me as well. So I hope you guys liked it. I hope you like my story, and I hope you feel brave enough to share your journey one day as well. Please do comment in the box down below. I'm in no way a hero for sharing this. I just want to open up a space that people feel they can talk about it. So yeah, I hope you liked listening to my story, and I hope it was interesting for you. If it wasn't, then I'm sorry. But I did tell you at the start it was going to be a long one. If you want to hear a part 2, or if you've got any questions, let me know and I can make another video. But yeah, stay safe. I hope you guys are all keeping well in lockdown, and I will see you guys very, very soon. I'm sending lots of love to everyone with epilepsy, without epilepsy, and anyone just needing a bit of comfort, love, cuddles. It's all for you. So I'll see you guys soon, and I hope you've enjoyed. Please leave a thumbs up, subscribe, share it away. Bye.